I inherited this oak desk from my father. It's over 100 years old and I believe a federal style. Since my last move, I've let this get out of hand. I'm an engineer and I have 1,000,000 books and I needed some place to put them and to be organized. In order to clean up, regain control, and look like this, I needed to build a bookcase which matched the majesty of the original antique desk. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Off to the lumberyard, this time for red oak. 10-foot long boards almost fit into my SUV. This is really lazy, but I used 2 light-duty racks to cut the boards in half to bring them down in the basement. It's a lot of wood. Time to match grain and color. We start at the jointer. Glue up the jointed edges. And do it again and again for the sides and all the shelves. Back to the jointer. Then to the table saw to rip both the sides and the 2 dimensions of shelves. We are making progress. Here are all the glue ups. Now the final passes on the joiner, on the table saw and edge. Now to the planer. I'm really getting a workout today. Now to cut the boards to length. Now that each board is to size, we're ready to start cutting dados and rabbets. We start with the 6 dados in the sides. I have a CNC, so I decided to use it to cut the dados. You have to be careful with red oak. It takes a lot of force to get through, and I had 1 part move on me, but we got through it. A CNC is mesmerizing, and I don't get tired of watching it. Always make sure everything lines up. Now in the bottom of the shelves, I have 1 dado. The shelves are too long to fit into my CNC, so I cut them at the table saw. The books are very heavy, and the span is very wide, so I put supports at the back of each shelf to help support them from bowing. Here we can see a dado down the middle of those supports to help keep the shelves straight. 2 passes for the 1-inch wide material. The top shelf has a solid oak back, so we're cutting the shelf support dado now. This is a finished view of what it'll look like when we're done. Now we have to cut the rabbets in the back of the sides. This will fit the cross rails and the back pieces. Table saw sure does a lot of work. Now the cross rails need to be fitted into the rabbets at the back. This is surprisingly complicated joinery to get the strength required. Now it's time to start assembling this monster. While this looks like a simple bookcase, it's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, and you want to make sure you know how you're going to assemble it. The order can make your life very easy or very difficult. I prefer easy. I waited to cut the arch support until now so that I could fit it into the assembly. This part is arched so it doesn't take up valuable desk space, but gives us the needed support of the first shelf. It is a primary structural element. Again, we have to notch it so it fits onto the back support rails. Now to cut the 2 upper shelf center supports. They are just square and then notched. I haven't made you watch much sanding in this video, but you always have to pay the piper if you want good-looking furniture. I find it much easier to locate the screw holes from inside the dados instead of from the other side. There is never enough room or enough hands when it comes to assembly. Plan your assembly sequence before you start. It can make your life much easier. And it's always good to have the clamps laid out where you need them. I have built several desktop bookcases like this where you don't have a board across the bottom. So I am always very careful to make them structurally strong. I had drilled the holes in the side, but I hadn't done the pilot holes in the shelf ends, so I'm doing that now. Definitely required when putting screws into red oak. Now that the shelves and the sides are assembled, we need to add the cross supports, which support both the shelves and keep our case together. Measure twice, cut once. Make sure everything's in the correct position before screwing together. Work, 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 work. There is just a whole lot of assembly, but with a little patience, everything works out. Now we're ready for the oak plywood back panels. I do my finishing in a basement, so I have to use water-based products. The key to getting a flawless finish with water-based products is to wet the grain. So even though I've sanded this already, I put water on it, which raises the grain. After the wood dries again, you can rub your hand across it, you'll feel the fuzzies. Resand the raised grain using a fine sandpaper like 220, and it will not raise again when you put on the finish. This is truly important to getting a quality finish. Now we need to fit the bottom shelf front support. I used glue and pocket screws to attach this. Match drill again because this is red oak. One key to putting screws into red oak is to use wax. It makes life much easier. I use the pocket hole screws because they're hidden from the front. I got it off the bench by myself, but I'm going to need help getting it up on the sawhorses for the finishing. Well, now it's time to finish this desktop bookcase, but it has to match the 100-year-old desk. After testing several stain samples, I chose the General Finishes Black Cherry. I had the most success painting the stain on one section and wiping it off quickly before it dried. This prevented streaking and unevenness. I was pleased with the color and how it would match the desk. I chose General Finishes High Performance Satin for the top coat. It's a water base, and I can spray it in the basement. I always hang up brown paper so I can adjust my gun and get it spraying properly before I start spraying my pieces. This bookcase had a lot of recesses and had to change gun angles to make sure I got all the surfaces. It was not as easy as spraying a flat table. I didn't have all my gun angles worked out, so I got a few drips, so I hit them with a foam brush, and now I can continue. No blood, no foul. When sanding, the key is not to scratch through the color, but to scratch the surface just enough so that the top coat adheres better. I always remove the dust to make sure that I get a nice, clean finish. This is a key to success. I started with a rag, then I went to my HVLP sprayer, that's nice, clean, filtered air, to spray off any remaining dust. Now for the second coat. And the third coat. Decided to add a fourth coat, and it looked good. After a lot of grunting and groaning and the help of a much stronger young man, we got the bookcase into place. The bookcase looks great, but the desk needs a little help. I don't have time right now to refinish the whole desk, so we're going to cheat. I'm taking the same stain and going over the white spots that have been scratched and dented over the years. Brush on, wipe off. This made a huge difference until I can do a full refinish of the desk. It's cheating, but it works. That's much better. Quick load of the books, and I'm very happy with the look and feel. The bookcase matches the original desk. The 1-inch thick lumber matches the heft of the original desk, so it doesn't look too thin. And what a difference from before to after. And yes, that is an old school drafting board. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell.